If a woman is looking at you like this, you're in a lot of trouble. Coming to paperback and e-readers, from the author of the critically acclaimed book The Man Crisis comes The Woman Crisis. Learn why so many women are becoming lost in their quest to have it all in The Woman Crisis. Pre-order your copy of The Woman Crisis on Amazon.com today. In a previous video, I talked about a 21-year-old black man from Colorado who was kidnapped by a white woman who he had met for a hookup on Tinder. Now, as this man met with this woman for a casual sexual encounter, this woman went out here and bound up his ankles and wrists with duct tape, led him into a bedroom, then went and stabbed him in the shoulder, choked him with her hands, choked him with a belt, and then as he was bleeding, then took him into a bathtub, then called up for some DoorDash and threatened to kill him if he said anything. And thank God this man was able to escape that encounter, and the police wound up arresting this woman. Now, as they posted mugshots of this woman, I caught the look in her eyes, and I found it to be quite troubling because it's the exact same look that soldiers have when they have become emotionally detached from all of the horrors around them. Now, many in the military call this look the 1,000-yard stare, as related to these soldiers who have become emotionally detached from seeing all of these horrors around them. However, with today's modern women, they have the same type of detached look, and many men are calling it the 1,000-cock stare. Now, these men call it the 1,000-cock stare because it seems like these women have become emotionally detached from all of the numerous sexual encounters that they have had with men ever since they were teenagers, and now that they are older, these women have just become emotionally detached from having so many sexual encounters and so many sexual partners that they are just basically disconnected from their bodies. Now, just like the soldiers who have seen all of these horrors of war, the women with this 1,000-cock stare, what happens is they have this just blank look in their eyes where they're just it's just a very disturbing look to see in their eyes. So as I was looking at this woman's mugshot, she had the exact same look as those soldiers had, and the look in her eyes basically showed that she had become just completely disconnected and detached from herself from all of the numerous sexual acts I believe that she was participating in. Because with the average American woman these days, she has had close to 80 to 100 sexual partners by the time she is 30 years old, and that does a serious amount of trauma to a woman's mind because women are emotional, and when they have sex with a man, what happens to those women is that man releases his spirit inside of that woman. He releases his DNA inside of that woman, and that is what is supposed to lead to them bonding with each other. However, when a woman has more than one sexual partner, what happens is that those spirits start to cause conflict within her because those spirits are trying to bond with hers, and as those spirits try to bond with her, they start fighting with each other, and they start fighting with her. And as these women have all of these multiple sexual partners, what happens is that there's a spiritual conflict inside of that woman, and it's that spiritual conflict inside of that woman that has these spirits pulling at her spirit, And as those spirits pull at her soul, eventually there are so many of these spirits inside of this woman that it basically tears her apart. And once it tears her soul completely apart, what happens is you get a woman who has this completely blank and detached look because she has no connection to herself because her soul has been torn to complete pieces. And that's the look I saw in this 22-year-old Colorado woman's eyes. And when I looked into her eyes, I saw the same blank, detached look that I saw that your exhausted military soldiers had when they had to look at the horrors of war. Unfortunately, when it comes down to these modern women, they're getting this look not because of a military conflict, but they're getting this look because of a conflict inside of them due to all of the multiple sexual partners they have been having. And because they've had so many of these sexual partners, what happens to these women is they start to become detached from themselves. And as they become detached from themselves, they start to feel powerless. And as they start to feel powerless, what they look to do is not have sex in order to connect and get closer to a man. What they do is look to have sex in order to get power over a man, and they look to go out here and do harm to that man so that they can feel a sense of power. So, this is possibly why this woman was on Tinder and possibly was the reason why she was looking for hookups, and possibly as she was getting involved with these different men on Tinder for hookups, she was possibly looking to get more violent with these men if it's just like the alleged encounter she had with this black man. Because when I look at this kind of behavior, it's similar to what I talk about as related to the beta male, and when I talked about in the man crisis, and in my book, The Woman Crisis, I talk about how these women wind up like this. And again, it's a similar quest for power because they want to go out here and not only use sex to connect with somebody, but to connect with themselves. And since have become so desensitized and so deadened inside due to the multiple sexual encounters ripping apart their spirit, what happens is they can't go out here and pair bond because they've had so many sexual partners. So, in their need to get power, they turn sex into a violent act, and that's what happened in this case as related to this black man who wound up having to deal with this woman first asking him to participate in sexual deviancy by binding his wrists and his ankles and then looking to threaten this man. That was all about her looking to try to get power because she felt detached and disconnected in her own body. And then after she coerced this man into bed, she then looked to stab and choke him, again looking to use violence to get power during the sex act. And then after she then had him, he was bleeding too much, she took him into the bathtub. And then after she took him in the bathtub, she threatened to kill him after she ordered DoorDash. Again, this was not about her having a pleasurable sex act. It was about power, and it was about her breaking a man down. And that's what happens when you're dealing with a woman who has this look in her eyes. Because if she's got this look in her eyes, again, she's detached from herself. She's really disassociated from herself, and she wants to go out here and try to connect with someone not through a physical sexual act, but she wants to connect with people in a way to get power over them and looks to go out here and do harm to them in an effort for her to get the power that gives her some sense of gratification. And this is what happens when you're dealing with women who have been extremely sexually promiscuous. What happens to these women is, again, they wind up with all of these spirits inside of them, and these spirits wind up causing a conflict with her. And again, as they're pulling at her soul because they all want to bond with her soul, what happens is they wind up tearing her soul completely apart, and she just turns into a blank and empty person who is detached from her own spirit. And again, this is why she has this blank detached look, and that blank detached look should be a warning for all of these men out here, because when you have women who have this blank look on their face, they have that blank look on their face because they have no soul, and because they have no soul, there are demons inside of her, and these demons inside of her are the thing that are going to drive her to explore sexual deviancy and sexual violence. And this could lead to you basically putting your life in jeopardy, because that look in her eyes is a sign of danger. And when you see that 1,000-yard look, or as some men call it, the 1,000-cock look, you need to run in the opposite direction, because this woman who has this look in her eyes is basically looking not to have a relationship with a man where they can connect and bond, because she can't connect with you in any way, shape, or form. No, she's looking to get power, and the power that she's looking to get is by looking to break a man down. And in some cases, it's beyond breaking a man down, it's looking to take a man's life. And thank God this man was able to escape from this woman before she could do greater harm to him, like a woman in the Midwest did, where she basically strangled a man to death and then performed sex acts on his corpse before dismembering it. That's how far these kinds of women can go, and you have to really understand what danger you're looking at when you look this woman in her eyes. Now, this guy, he didn't look in this woman's eyes and understand the danger he was in, and that's basically because he was a thirsty dude who was spellbound by those crystal blue eyes and that creamy white skin, and all he could see was a white girl standing in front of him, and he didn't understand who was looking at him, because he didn't go out here and look that woman in the eye, because had he looked that woman in the eye and identified that 1,000-yard stare in her eyes, he would have understood that this was a woman that you really didn't want to go to her house for a hookup, because she may be putting hooks in you for that hookup, and that might lead to the end of your life. And again, the eyes are the window to the soul, and when you look in a woman's eyes and you see that blank look, you should understand that that look in her eyes is a red flag. And if you look in those eyes and you see that blank look, understand that that look is all you need to see how dangerous this woman could possibly be. Now, if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my book, my Patreon, my PayPal, and my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to learn more about what makes women like this become deeply troubled like this, you can pick up my book, The Woman Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Woman Crisis on Smashwords, the iBookstore, Google Play, and other online booksellers. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and Kindle, Stop Simping in Cyberspace. Learn how to avoid predatory females like Instagram models and e-girls in their virtual con games with Stop Simping in Cyberspace. Get your copy of Stop Simping in Cyberspace in paperback and Kindle today.